So thank you very much for joining us for this training session on Enphase's California Grid Services Programs, also commonly known as VPPs or Virtual Power Plant Programs in California. Today, we're going to teach you about how Enphase delivers best-in-class grid services performance and customer experience, and the benefits of partnering with Enphase for bringing maximum value to your customers. For those of you who may be new to the concept of grid services, it encompasses a variety of programs offered by electric utilities around the country, actually around the world for that matter, where the utilities will offer some kind of financial incentive, either upfront or performance-based over time, to allow access to the owner's solar and battery system with the end goal of supporting the utility grid. In other words, they kind of pay you a financial incentive to help out the grid when they decide they need it. Since in California, a battery is now basically essential in order to maximize savings under NEM 3.0, this ability of homeowners being able to also participate in grid services programs is going to help further defray the cost of owning a battery, and it can also be a very valuable tool for you to win more business. Just trying to get to the next slide here. Okay, little technical challenge there. I'd like to introduce Michael Norbeck. He's going to be the primary speaker today. He is one of Enphase's experts on grid services, and he works actually closely with the utilities to help get these programs stood up on their feet, and also works with our engineers in-house to make sure that the process of for customers signing up for these programs is seamless and easy. My name is Tony Vernetti. I'm a sales and technical trainer at Enphase Energy, and I'll be facilitating the webinar today. And kind of giving a little bit more overview of the benefits of working with Enphase with these grid services programs. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to going through this session with you. So here is what we have on our agenda today. First, I'm going to review some of the advantages of working with Enphase and participating with these grid services programs. We're going to go over the installer experience. I'm going to talk about how grid services work with NEM 3.0 billing. And then Michael's going to go into details for the available programs in California from PG&E, SCE, SDG&E, as well as Sonoma Clean Power. And a little bit more detail about San Diego Community Power Solar and Storage Residential Program. And then we'll talk a little bit more about future programs, program awareness. We'll go over an actual example of the program enrollment workflow, so you'll have an idea of what the end customer will experience when they use the Enphase app to actually sign up for one of these programs. And then I'll let you know about some additional training opportunities available for free from Enphase Energy, and then we'll have a Q&A. So first, let's review some of the advantages of Enphase with grid services programs. First is technology. Enphase IQ batteries and microinverters are already grid services ready, and they have some things like advanced grid functions which help with grid stability. System owners can set their battery to whatever operating mode they want, whether it's savings or full backup or self-consumption mode, which are the three basic modes of the Enphase system. And if they're participating in grid services, that mode will be temporarily overridden so the battery can be discharged. And once the grid services event is passed, it'll switch back to that normal operating mode. It's a seamless transition. It doesn't require involvement from the homeowner at all. We at Enphase have worked really hard at making the homeowner experience best in class. With the Enphase app, the owner can sign up for and manage their participation in grid services programs. If their home is prone to power outages, they can set a reserve capacity so that some energy is going to be saved in case there's an outage. In other words, not all of the energy will be used for the grid services program if they need to reserve some energy to prepare for an outage. We also offer live customer support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And all models of Enphase IQ batteries also now have 15-year warranties. Installers who have helped their customers to sign up for grid services can use the Enphase Installer Portal, also known as Enlighten Manager, to monitor their customers' batteries during events. We also offer free training to our installers as I mentioned before, for things like sales training, design training, and installation training with Enphase University Online, as well as on-demand webinars and live webinars like the one we're having right now. We also offer free hands-on training at several regional training centers around the country. If you'd like to get hands-on training, I encourage you to reach out to your regional sales manager to find out when the next training might be in your region. And lastly, on the Enphase website, we have a page that's dedicated to grid services and has information about all of the programs that are available to Enphase system owners. If you're an installer in California, then you're certainly aware of the new billing structure for NEM 3.0, known as the Net Billing Tariff, or NBT. This is the tariff that was basically approved April of last year, and it has now been implemented in 2 of the utilities, and PG&E is coming up soon. The NBT generally has very low export rates during the day when solar is producing excess power. However, during select months of the year in the evening, the export rate is high, and you're allowed to export the energy stored in a battery back to the utility grid and earn significant bill credits, which can be carried forward and applied toward future charges. Customers who have NEM 3.0 billing can also participate in any of the grid services programs in California to maximize the financial benefits of owning an Enphase Energy System with a battery. Pictured here is the simple, low-cost system configuration available from Enphase, which we call the grid-tied battery, or solar plus battery without backup. This type of system or a complete backup power system are both eligible to participate, I should say, in grid services programs. You don't have to have backup capability in order to participate. You simply have to have a battery. But for those of you who are trying to sell solar and storage systems in California, we at Enphase want you to know that we do offer this option. And this obviously does not have backup capabilities. The goal here is to include that necessary battery to maximize savings and be able to offer customers a very high bill offset of 80 to 90% without all the additional expense that goes into a backup power system like the Enphase System Controller or Smart Switch, as well as the labor required usually to move circuits into a backup loads panel. So this is our most cost-effective solution for NEM 3.0 for the sole purpose of saving money. All right, with that, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Michael to talk about the details of the programs available in California.
Awesome, thank you, Tony, and thanks everybody for attending today. We really appreciate your time and attention. Can you hear me okay? Tony, am I coming through?
Yep, audio is good.
All right, super. If you would give us a one click forward, that would be awesome. So folks, quick preamble. We have 4 programs that we're going to provide a little bit of context on for today. And I'm going to apologize in advance. Each of the next 4 slides is a bit of an eye chart. I thought I would do something overambitious and try to get all of the program details for each program on a single slide, and it ends up being just a lot to read and step through. So again, apologies in advance for that. I will say we certainly will send these slides out as a follow-on to everybody who attends the session today. And as you'll see in a few slides, we are planning some follow-up training and info sessions for most of these programs as well. So today is it's a bit of a deep dive. We wanted to give you guys a good overview of the customer value prop and the program structure, so you can have a pretty decent understanding of whether or not it's going to be the right fit for you and an offer you want to bring to your customers. And then we'll have some follow-on sessions again for a lot of these programs to give you that much more detail and be able to spend more time in the weeds on each individual program. So hopefully that'll be a helpful kind of follow-through exercise for all of us. But we'll start with the PG&E Emergency Load Reduction Program. So this is one that we have partnered with PG&E to offer to PG&E customers. A lot of y'all may know that it's technically available statewide. We are focusing on PG&E for our implementation of it for a reason that you'll see in a slide or two. Quick background on this program. Some of you guys may be familiar with this already based on your experience with other battery installers. We also had a training session on this program toward the end of last year. We were just launching the program at that point, the program is now open for enrollment, so we wanted to kind of reemphasize that. Also, the program season starts May 1st of this year, and we look forward to having customer batteries participating either on that date or very shortly afterwards. So this is just kind of another heads up that the program is open, and we'll be getting customers operational very, very shortly. This program is available to all new and existing Enphase battery customers in PG&E territory. It differs a little bit from some traditional demand response programs. We don't have to go super deep into the weeds on this. Essentially, it's structured a little bit more rationally, a little bit better. Customers get paid based on their credited contributions to load reduction as measured by battery output, which is kind of nice. Customers also have a lot more flexibility in this program design as to whether or not they want to participate in individual program events. I realize a lot of you guys may have experience with some other traditional demand response programs, ones that are integrated into CAISO markets. Customers don't have a lot of flexibility as to whether or not they want to participate. They're just expected to discharge their batteries whenever they're told to do it. ELRP is nice because customers get to choose. So more flexibility for the customer. We find that creates a better customer experience. If a customer chooses not to participate in a program event, they just don't get paid for that event. If they want to participate, they do. We facilitate enrollment in the program via the Enphase app, which hopefully should be pretty useful. A lot of different ways you can get a customer signed up for a program. We spend a fair amount of time trying to dial the app experience in pretty well. We've had some pretty good initial engagement from customers on this program and some positive feedback regarding the app. So hopefully that'll continue to be the case as we scale with you guys. A little bit about the program event framework. So PG&E will call between 20 and 60 hours of battery discharge events between May 1st and October 31st each year. The program's been around for a couple of years. We find that a lot of those events happen kind of more toward the later part of that 6-month season. The logic isn't perfect, but it's kind of, when the grid is looking at more consistent strain that could lead to a greater likelihood of power outages. A lot of times in Northern California, that means kind of the August, September, October timeframe where you have these really hot evenings. Events will take place between 4 and 9 p.m. and will last between 1 and 4 hours. So a way to think about that is you could have something like 20 1-hour events or 5 4-hour events. We've often found that events typically are in that 3 to 4 hour range, but again, that's going to vary based on grid conditions and how PG&E would like to use the battery. So that just gives you kind of an idea of the number of events that customers could be asked to participate in. When customers enroll in the program, they get to select the kW rate that they want to discharge their battery at. So basically the amount of capacity from their battery they want to share. Customers are paid on a kWh basis. And that is calculated just based on kW, rate for discharge of the battery times the number of hours of the event to get to the aggregate kWh. That's the kind of the simple way to look at the way customer participation is evaluated. It gets a little bit more complicated because PG&E is insisting on comparing customer battery discharge during a program event against what a customer would quote unquote normally be doing with their battery during that time. So it's not ideal if the customer's battery is cycling for time of use every day, and that time of use period happens to overlap with an ELRP program event. PG&E may not say that the customer is doing something new or quote unquote incremental with their battery as part of ELRP, which can lead to them getting paid a bit less for that event. It's a whole 10 or 15 years worth of policy complication in California about that particular kind of program design element. It's not great. But the upshot is that even with all those considerations in play, customers can typically expect to make about $100 to $250 for each full program year that they participate. So again, those numbers aren't written in stone, but it should be a reasonable indicator of what customers can expect, even with those kind of methodological considerations in play. PG&E plans to pay out customers close to the end of the program season. It'll take them probably a couple of months to get all of their evaluation regarding customer performance done. But they said to us that they intend to pay customers, by the end of the calendar year. So if the program season finishes October 31st, 2024, PG&E would intend to pay customers by the end of December of that year. It could bleed into early Q1 of 2025. And we don't know for sure exactly when they'll do it, but they say within a couple of months after the program season is done. And this will likely show up as a one-time bill credit on the customer's bill for each year that they participate in the program. So again, program is accepting enrollments now. The program just got extended to run through at least 2027. I'm sorry, it was 2025, got extended to 2027, and could be further extended. So this is kind of nice. If you think about it in aggregate, if we look at the upper end of that income earning potential, 24, 25, 26, 27, you could be looking at customers making, $400 to $500, maybe $1,000 up to, for the next few years participating in the program. So, it's not $1 million, but it's not nothing. And for customers who are thinking about a battery, this could be, a good tool to use to encourage them to consider it and to enroll. So Tony, if you could give us one slide forward. Awesome, thank you. So, second program we wanted to talk to you guys about today was the Demand Side Grid Support Program. And this is one that we will be offering with Southern California Edison and San Diego Gas and Electric. So we kind of bifurcated. We started with ELRP for NorCal, and we're doing DSGS for SoCal. We're trying to limit it to kind of one major investor-owned utility program per utility service territory to reduce some customer confusion. We may end up shifting this a little bit depending on the degree of customer interest and how customers are getting paid under each program for this year. We may decide to switch all customers over to the option for DSGS next year, or maybe, sunset DSGS and move folks over to ELRP, depending on, again, what that customer value prop is looking like. That's very much to be determined, but just wanted to put that out there. This will be a good learning year for us in terms of customer experience, the way customers perceive value. Your feedback on the program and how we're implementing it will all be really good inputs for us as we figure out the best way to deliver the greatest amount of value to customers in the simplest way possible going forward. DSGS is a pretty good program design. In some ways, it's quite similar to ELRP. It's available to all new and existing Enphase battery customers in the SoCal IOU territories. Again, its performance is determined by measuring the battery's discharge. Customers get to decide which events they do or do not want to participate in, which is very nice. And the enrollment takes place via the Enphase app as well. A little bit different in terms of the program kind of participation structure. Up to 35 program events can be called. So it's not based on number of hours this time, it's based on the number of events. And this will be also from May 1st to October 31st of each year. Events will be between 4 and 9 p.m. One of the interesting things for this program, just to be aware of, is that customers who are on the Net Energy Metering 1 and Net Energy Metering 2 tariff, of course, as you guys are I'm sure very well aware, are typically not able to export from their batteries to the grid, right? So if there's the possibility that the Enphase, the customer's solar and battery system could potentially have charged from the grid at some point. The investor-owned utilities and the regulator in California are very motivated to ensure that battery does not discharge to the grid. So this means that if you're selecting, that you'll want to be able to discharge your battery to match your time coincident load as the customer in a way that also allows you to use as much of your battery as possible so you get paid as much as you can. So we will encourage customers who are on the Net Energy Metering 1 and Net Energy Metering 2 tariff to choose a program participation duration of 4 hours. Under DSGS, you can technically choose 2, 3, or 4 hours, I believe, but we found based on our modeling of customer value that typically customers who are on NEM 1 or NEM 2 will make the most money under DSGS if they choose the 4-hour event. This means that even if you have relatively limited load per hour, low load per hour times more hours means, a greater amount of battery being used, which means more money, right? A little bit different for folks who are on the NEM 3 or a net billing tariff. A lot of these customers may be able to export from their batteries to the grid. So if PCS export limits are not in place. And we found that in this case, customers will typically benefit more from 2-hour program events. This again would maximize the amount of kW that their battery can deliver, which means a higher customer payment. So as part of the enrollment process, which we will enable in the customer app, We will give customers the ability to choose. Do you want to be in the 2-hour event crew, or do you want to be in the 4-hour event cadre? We're pretty agnostic. We just want to give customers a little bit of guidance and encouragement, to make the most money that they can from their system based on their other, preferences, of course, for how their battery is being managed. So we'll let customers choose, but we'll encourage them to choose the 2-hour or the 4-hour event block. In terms of incentives, so customers will be paid about $62 per kW per year on average for 2-hour events, and $82.80 per kilowatt per year for 4-hour events. Again, the math we've done indicates that the 4-hour event is a better choice overall in terms of total customer compensation if you can't export, and the 2-hour event is a better choice on average if you can. Practically speaking, this means that customers who are on NEM1 or NEM2 can probably expect to earn about $150 to $200 per year for that 4-hour event period. And NEM3 customers could expect to earn about $150 to $450 per year for that 2-hour event period. That second dollar value, of course, is a pretty wide band, and that depends on a lot of factors, including time coincident customer loads, size of customer battery system, their solar production, a bunch of other criteria. So we didn't want to zero in on some specific number and just end up being wrong most of the time. We wanted to present a range to you, but our modeling indicates that's a pretty fair set of compensation assumptions for customers. Again, customers can opt into or opt out of any event via the Enphase app without a penalty, but opting out of events will decrease the total kW performance that you're credited, and of course then likely decrease the amount of incentive that you're paid. We will actually be paying customers directly under this program structure. That's just the way it's set up, where the aggregator or the program manager has to pay customers. So this will probably be a one-time gift card per year minus a small program administration fee that we'll charge. This will not be a large fee. We need to be able to cover our costs for managing this program and also the cost of sending out the gift card, which is not zero. Again, the vast majority of that money will go directly to the customer. We just need to cover costs. And we're planning to send that out, toward the end of each program year or very, early in the next analysis from the program manager in this case, which is regarding the credited performance for each customer site. We'll have to wait for them to do that analysis, and then we'll have to figure out how to get the gift cards, allocated for each customer. So there'll be a little bit of a lag, mostly because we'll be waiting on getting the numbers back from our partner. But as soon as those numbers come in, we'll get the gift cards turned around to customers quite quickly. So again, total incentive potential per customer is approximately $600 to $1,800, assuming that the program runs through 2027, which is what we anticipate. So in this case, there isn't a specified program horizon. There's there's a budget that's been allocated, which is $300 million, as you see at the bottom of the slide here. That money isn't being spent super fast, so we think it's pretty realistic to assume that the program will run at least through 2027. If the money gets eaten up a lot faster, that could mean a slightly, quicker sunset, or it could mean that the program goes even longer, 2028, 2029, 2030. But I think 2027 is a pretty fair estimate. And we are planning to launch this program in May of this year. Could end up being June, but I think May is a pretty realistic timetable for us. And of course, we'll provide more information and a firm launch date as we get a little bit closer to the event. So Tony, if you wouldn't mind moving us forward one. Awesome, thank you. So third program here for us is the Sonoma Clean Power Grid Savvy Rewards Program. A little background on this one. This is an exclusive program that we at Enphase negotiated and designed with Sonoma Clean Power. So no other battery providers are currently eligible to participate in this program, which is kind of cool. It pays a decent amount of money. So if you operate in Sonoma Clean Power territory, which is predominantly Sonoma and Mendocino counties, and a few municipalities and unincorporated areas in that general part of the state, it could be a good option for you. It does have some different program participation criteria than ELRP and DSGS, one of which being that the program requires customers to charge or discharge their battery based on Sonoma Clean Power's instruction every day, right? So it's not like there's a limited number of events per season, you get to opt in and opt out. This one does require the customer to allow Sonoma to manage their battery every day. We don't anticipate this is going to be very disruptive to customer experience. Sonoma plans to charge the battery when there's high levels of solar production, and discharge the battery when either time of use tariffs have clicked on or export values are high, or both, right? So this shouldn't create too much disruption to the customer experience with respect to how they use their battery for cost savings. But there is just that element to be aware of, that Sonoma doesn't tend to use their battery every month. Customers can opt out of up to 2 events per month via the Enphase app and still receive their ongoing monthly performance incentive, which we'll talk about. If they opt out of more than 2 events, they do forego that monthly incentive. So that's just something to be aware of. Going back up to the top of the slide, again, customers will enroll in the program via the Enphase app. We've talked about how the battery will charge and discharge. The events will typically be 4 to 9 p.m. and last between 1 and 5 hours. Given some of the export considerations we talked about a minute ago, chances are Sonoma is probably going to be, calling longer duration events to get the maximum value out of the battery that they can, of course, and pay the customers the greatest amount they can. Based on using the greatest amount of kWh in situations where the batteries are not able to export. So technically 1 to 5 hours, we'll probably be seeing more program events in that 3 to 5 hour time duration. During the enrollment process, customers will select the kilowatt hours from the battery that they want to make available to Sonoma for program events. So instead of kW, they'll be selecting kWh. Not a huge difference in terms of CX, customer experience, but that's just something to be aware of. In terms of incentives, Sonoma will pay customers $140 per kilowatt hour that they enroll from their battery system upfront. And we'll talk about how that works practically in just a minute. And then there'll be a $4 per kilowatt hour per month ongoing or performance-based incentive. So the quick example we have here is program participation horizon is going to be 5 years. That's the commitment that customers sign up for when they enroll in the program. Assuming that the customer has 2 IQ5Ps and decides to enroll 80% of that system's capacity in the program. You have $140 per kWh times 8 kWh enrolled, which means $1,120 up front. And then if you assume $4 per kWh per month times that 8 kWh times 12 months times 5 years, you get a total of just under $2,000 for participating in that program over that 5-year time horizon, which is not bad. Of course, greater battery capacity that's enrolled in the program means a lot more money for the customer, right? And that math would just scale based on the size of the kWh value that's enrolled in the program. We've talked about opting out. Incentives will likely be paid upfront for the upfront incentive by check from Sonoma, and then performance incentives likely as a bill credit. We're still kind of hammering out those exact details with Sonoma Clean Power, but that's what they've told us they intend to do. And again, we'll have more info on that for you shortly. We plan to launch this program in April or May. It could end up being June. We don't think so. It's probably going to stick for April or May. We're in pretty good shape here with Sonoma. A few details to hammer out, but we're very, very close. And again, the current program horizon is 2024 through 2029. Again, with that 5-year participation period, the customers will be expected to sign up for. So Tony, if you'd give us one more click. Thank you. Sorry, just taking a sip of water here. Last program we wanted to preview. This one is in pretty good shape in terms of its program design from San Diego Community Power. There are some details that San Diego still has to finalize for how this program will work. So we wanted to share with you all of the information that we currently have about this program, and then make sure you guys have access to some additional material that San Diego will be putting out about this program. We may do some more in-depth training on this program in the weeks ahead, depending on kind of the degree of information and communication that San Diego provides, and kind of how timing works out on our side. But again, wanted to give you guys a preview and share the greatest detail that we have so far on this program. So a little bit about San Diego Community Power. A map of their service territory is on the right here. You'll see it's San Diego County, City of San Diego, Encinitas, La Mesa, National City, Imperial Beach, Chula Vista. These are some of the key kind of geos that San Diego Community Power covers. It's the majority of San Diego Gas and Electric's historical load base. You guys are probably going to be pretty familiar with each of these communities, but a lot of folks, millions of customers are now basically defaulted into San Diego Community Power's portfolio. So a lot of potential coverage for this program hopefully should make the customer communication and sale process relatively easy. A little bit about this program. It's available to all new battery customers in SDCP territory. So existing customers are unfortunately not eligible to receive an incentive. You got to be a new battery customer or solar and battery customer. It does require a daily discharge of the battery system, so somewhat similar to that Sonoma Clean Power program design. We have a little bit more learning to do in terms of how San Diego wants to structure the sign-up process. But what we have learned so far is that the installer will help the customer fill out the application form and submit it to San Diego for review. The installers will have to be approved by San Diego to participate in the program. So you have to be kind of a vetted installer. SDCP has to have kind of reviewed your qualifications and said, yep, you're good to go for you to be able to sell customers in for this program. Those criteria for approving installers, at least as of last we checked, which would have been a few days ago, are still kind of to be finalized, but we should be getting guidance from San Diego on that relatively quickly. This program has kind of some budget allocated to it that'll dictate the size of the program. So currently it's $1 million for 2024 with the plan to allocate $7 million for the total 3-year horizon of the program. So starting a little bit slower and then ramping up going forward. Practically speaking, this probably means about 150 to 200 systems for 2024, using up that $1 million budget across all approved battery OEMs. So we could see this program, getting snapped up pretty quick, and a lot of folks moving relatively quickly. Of course, we are very motivated to help you guys maximize, your ability to deliver value to customers under this program. So, we're going to want to help ensure that you guys learn as much as you can about the program and are able to get approved by San Diego Community Power and ready to go as soon as possible. Because again, this could go pretty quick, and it's not just Enphase, it's a lot of other battery OEMs that you're going to be aware of are eligible to participate in this program. So in terms of events, the battery systems are going to discharge during a fixed 2-hour period each month. This will likely be between 4 and 9 p.m., and this period may vary month to month. So essentially, San Diego Community Power will publish a monthly schedule. This month we want batteries to discharge from 4 to 6 p.m. This month we want 5 to 7, etc. And then each approved battery OEM will discharge their participating devices during that time period. The incentives for this one are pretty good. So it's $350 per kWh nameplate of the battery up front. So this isn't based on the amount of enrolled capacity like it is for the Sonoma program, but it's the nameplate of the program. So if you have again, a 10 kWh nameplate system, you get that $350 times 10 kWh, which is pretty good. You also get $10 per kWh discharged during the customer's participation period each day, which is also pretty good. Again, this will be limited to some extent based on whether or not the customer is eligible to export from their system to the grid, right? So NEM1, NEM2 customers may not actually end up discharging all that much each day. They will discharge some, of course, to meet load. NEM3 customers will be able to discharge on average probably more and more consistently from their battery, which just means a little bit of additional compensation for the customer. So assuming that the customer's system can export fully, so think about this as maybe a NEM3 NBT system. Here's a quick example for us. So let's say it's 8 kWh enrolled in the program, 10 kWh nameplate. Customer gets that $350 per kWh times 10 kWh equals $3,500 up front. And then again, assuming the customer can export fully or discharge fully from their system each day, 10 cents per kWh times 8 kWh enrolled each day times 365 days a year times 10 years, which is the San Diego's anticipated program participation horizon. That ends up being $6,400 per customer over that 10-year period. So that's a fair amount of money. About half of it again is going to be broken down with that participation incentive, but half is just based on that upfront enrollment. So again, San Diego plans to pay the customers on an annual basis. This could go either to the customer or the installer, they have said. We still need more information from them in terms of how they prefer to pay. We typically encourage our utility partners, energy management partners, to pay the customer directly if they're the system owner. Makes things a little bit simpler, but we'll sort of see what San Diego decides they want to do. If the customer decides to opt out or underperforms by more than 10% of that enrolled kWh capacity per month, they would then forego that month's incentive payment. So Again, not a ton of money they would leave on the table, but San Diego's looking to motivate kind of performance and engagement for the customer, based on that 10% participation criterion. In terms of timing, San Diego has told us that they intend to launch the program in May of this year. We will see whether or not that sticks, but that's their plan. And again, there's a 10-year participation period from time of enrollment that San Diego expects. So once a customer says, yes, I'm enrolled in this program, San Diego expects that their battery will be discharging on that daily basis for 10 years based on on the criteria that they specify. So that's all the information we have on this program for now. Again, there will be more information forthcoming from San Diego in the weeks ahead. We may see about putting together another training session for this program once those details are finalized, but just want to make sure you guys had the best preview we could put together for you, because again, once that program clicks on, it's probably going to be a pretty busy time getting customers signed up. So we wanted to make sure you guys had a little bit of advance warning. So I think that's all for our program overview. Tony, maybe back over to you. Oh, actually, no, one more. Sorry, I had one more slide for us. Thank you, Tony. If you could give us one more click, that'd be great. Yeah, so program awareness and additional materials. So for the ELRP, DSGS, and Grid Savvy Rewards program, we will have targeted informational emails to all solar and solar plus battery customers in each program region. So we plan to send out an email to all of our existing Enphase customers in these areas saying, hey, we have this program opportunity that you may be eligible to participate in. Tap here, visit your Enphase app and tap, grid services and information to learn more about the program. So we'll be kind of communicating directly to customers to give them a heads up. We will have program web pages hosted on our Enphase Grid Services site. The ELRP program is live, page is live now. We'll have the DSGS and Grid Savvy programs up within the next few weeks. We also plan to have brochures for customer-facing conversations summarizing the program details and value prop. We have one available for ELRP, which I believe a lot of you should have now. We can send it back out to you if you could use it. And we'll have ones for Grid Savvy and DSGS as well. We will be co-hosting a Grid Savvy Rewards informational session with Sonoma Clean Power on March 19th. That'll be even more information on the program, how it works. Our friends at Sonoma will be doing most of the talking that day. I'll go over kind of the enrollment process and stepping through just kind of how customers would use the app to get signed up for the program. So that should be a pretty good session. There's an in-person component for folks who are local if they want to show up to Sonoma's great training center downtown Santa Rosa. And there will also be a Zoom version for folks who are not able to make the trip physically. We plan to host an additional webinar for the DSGS program as we get a little bit closer to launch. That'll be probably either April or May of this year. And then also an additional info session for that San Diego program, April or May of this year, we contemplate as well as we get more detail on kind of final program design from the CCA at that point. So that, I believe, should be all the stuff I wanted to touch on. And Tony, back over to you, please.
All right, thank you, Michael. Wow, that's a lot of good information there. And again, just want to remind everybody that if you do have questions after we're done today, you can email the Grid Services email, which I'll display to you at the end, and that'll go directly to Michael and his team, and they can get back to you with good answers. Or you can reply to the confirmation email you got when you signed up for the webinar, and that'll come to Michael or myself as well. So now I'm just going to go through what it's like for the customer when they sign up for one of these grid services programs. Now, this is kind of the overall flow that a customer will experience. It is going to vary slightly depending on the actual grid services program. As Michael said, some of these programs allow you to choose the amount of kilowatt hours you want to subscribe, and others ask you to select kilowatts in power. So there is a little bit of variation. Some programs require more information about your utility account and meter number and so forth, and others don't. But in general, this is kind of how it goes. So first, we do our best to educate homeowners about these opportunities through the Enphase app. I should say system owners, not homeowners necessarily. But folks that own systems will see sometimes a banner pop up when they log into the Enphase app. And if they decide to click the later button, it will appear again the next time they log in, but after a certain number of times, it'll stop appearing. But basically, we want to remind customers of the availability of these programs and encourage them to participate, of course, just to make a little bit extra money off their battery. The next page is where they would select the available program. And because we, of course, have the customers' address information, we know where they're located and what utility they have, they could potentially participate in. It will just display the utility for their region. In this example, this is a PG&E customer, so their option is to select the ELRP program from the drop-down menu here. And this is where the customer has to enter numerous details to sign up for the program. For example, their name, email address, other contact information, address, and for some utilities or for some programs, they'll have to enter their account number and meter number as well. Then the next page is where they would enter some specific details about how much of either the power of their system in kilowatts or the energy storage capacity in kilowatt hours of their system they would like to enroll or subscribe into the system or into the program. In this example, customer enters their desired kilowatt discharge level. Then the customer has an opportunity to review the terms and conditions and then sign the form electronically. So they don't have to print out some sort of PDF or form to print and scan and send back in. We've really tried to simplify the process and make it all digital. So there's no additional work here. Simply sign digitally and hit sign and submit. At this point, all the information is sent from Enphase to the utility for verification. Typically, it takes about 4 to 5 days for PG&E. Other programs might be a little bit shorter or a little bit longer, it does depend. And then PG will approve, customer will be notified through the app that they've been approved, and then they are officially enrolled in the program. And that is actually the entire process that a customer would have to go through to sign up. Now, the last thing we're going to cover today is just a little bit about training opportunities. For those of you who may not be certified Enphase installers yet, we do offer a lot of free training opportunities at Enphase Energy. What we have highlighted on this slide is what we call Enphase University. This is our web-based learning platform where we offer a lot of free, it's all totally free training, and some of the courses are actually certification courses that are required for installers and designers in order to install Enphase systems. You don't have to be certified to install all Enphase systems, but you do have to be certified if you're going to install any Enphase battery or any Enphase backup system such as sunlight backup, as well as integrating a generator. You have to be certified. So again, these are totally free courses. All you have to have is an Enlighten ID, which you should be able to get through your company. If you don't have an Enlighten ID or just getting started in solar, you can contact us through the university.enphaseenergy.com website, and it's pretty easy when you go to the site to figure out how to actually sign up to get an Enlighten ID and be allowed to take all these free, amazing training courses. So we do offer training in both, well, basically these 4 categories: Enphase Energy System sales, installation, design, and installation of solar-only systems. So I encourage you to check those out. We also have a lot of free training in the form of webinars on our website, where you can find those at enphaseenergy.com/events. And we also have a lot of short training videos on numerous topics available without having to log into a platform on our YouTube channel, Enphase Training. So go to YouTube, search for Enphase Training. It'll be right there at the top, one of the top results. Go in there and you'll see we've got a number of playlists covering a variety of training topics from sales to installation to design. So I encourage you to check that out as well. And here we have the contact information for all of the regional sales managers from Enphase Energy that operate in California. They cover different regions. If you do your business in California, then hopefully one of these names looks familiar to you. If you haven't had any contact with Enphase, don't worry about it. Take a screenshot here, or you'll receive a PDF by email with a follow-up email by the end of tomorrow, and you'll have all these contact email addresses. And you can also reach out directly to Michael and his team for specific information about all of the programs we discussed today at gridservices@enphase.com. And we also have the links to getting Enphase storage certified here at the top, as well as the main page for Grid Services, where we have additional details about all the programs that Michael went over today, as well as other programs that are available in other parts of the country. Some of you might work for companies that have locations outside of California as well, so I encourage you to check out that website and see what other grid services programs there are around the country that might be available to your customers too. So with that, we'll open it up to a Q&A. We got a few interesting questions. Not a ton of questions, which I'm kind of surprised by, because this, man, it was chock full of information. And I would expect that the audience would have some additional questions. So if you're out there thinking of how you can take advantage of this program and you're not sure about anything, please type your questions in during the session if you'd like to get answers today. One question that came in, which I can handle, Michael, is what's the difference between self-consumption and saving setting? So as I mentioned before, if you have an Enphase Energy System with a battery, you can choose between self-consumption, savings mode, or full backup. The difference between self-consumption and savings is pretty subtle, but for people that understand time of use rates, it's pretty straightforward. Basically, self-consumption prioritizes consuming solar energy directly as it's produced, or energy that's been stored in the battery that was produced by solar on site. And that happens regardless of the time of day. So any time of day or night, the system is prioritizing consumption of your own self-produced solar energy or stored energy. The subtle difference is that with savings mode, the system will prioritize consumption of that stored energy during the peak period, or the most expensive period of the day. Not everybody across the country has time of use rates, but most people do now. So the price of energy during the peak period is oftentimes significantly higher, in some cases 100% higher, double the price of off-peak rates. So the strategy to save money may be a little bit different than the strategy simply for self-consumption. So hopefully that clarifies the key difference. Another difference when it comes to California is under NEM 3.0, you're allowed to export energy as long as your system is set up as an export-only system, and that's your interconnection type as well. Under savings mode, the system will basically save up energy during the day, so you have got a full battery during the evening periods when export rates are very valuable. For example, in August and September, depends a little bit on which utility, but during some months, during the evening hours, you can export the energy from the battery and earn a lot of credit. Under savings mode, it's going to export at the fastest rate that it can to earn maximum credits. Whereas under self-consumption mode, again, it prioritizes self-consumption any time of the day. So you may not have a completely full battery during those high value periods if you're in self-consumption. Question came in from Robert. SCE says new solar will be billed under what they call solar billing plan. Is that what we mean by NEM 3.0? My hunch, Robert, is that when they say solar billing plan, they're referring to the net billing tariff, or NBT. Net billing tariff is the official term that's used by the utilities for what the industry has been calling NEM 3.0 for a couple of years, because we didn't know what it was going to be called. We just knew that it was the next iteration of NEM. So that's my hunch, but I have to be honest, I haven't heard that specific phrase, solar billing plan. So to be certain, you might just want to check with them to make sure that solar billing plan equals the net billing tariff. Question from Sabrina that was answered in small text on the slide, but we'll just go through it again. Her question is, will existing battery installs be able to participate in the SCP, or I believe it's the SDCP program, the San Diego program, or is it just for new installs? And the answer there, which she saw on the text on the screen, is that it's only available to new installations, not to existing installations.
Yeah, that's correct for the San Diego program. Yes, that's what they've told us.
The other programs do apply to existing installations. Is that right, Michael?
Yes.
All the other programs? Okay, excellent.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting question from Sabrina. Is there a reason why somebody wouldn't want to participate in these programs? Michael, you've got to take that one.
Wow. I mean, I guess I'm a little biased because, I run this part of our business, and I think, everybody should have the opportunity to make more money from their Enphase system. The only real reason that I could think of why a customer might not want to participate in a program like this is if they had a lot of sensitivity around making sure that their battery had, the maximum amount of energy stored for managing a power outage or a grid disruption. If you're participating in one of these programs, your battery is discharging maybe every day, maybe some days during summer months or warm season months. And that potentially means that if an outage were to happen right after a program event happened, you would have less capacity in your battery available to help you ride through the outage. You'd still have some 10 or 20% or whatever reserve margin you as the customer had selected, but you wouldn't necessarily have 100% of your battery, again, depending on when the outage occurred as compared to when the program event occurred, right? But other than that, I mean, 15-year warranty on the batteries, they're warranted to cycle every day, one full charge and discharge cycle every day, which, these program designs, wouldn't change. We're not asking the battery to do more than it otherwise is warranted to do. Yeah, I can't really think of a reason why if I put myself in a customer's shoes and, I didn't have particular sensitivity around, having 100% of my battery available for managing an outage, why I wouldn't want to participate. I would say all these programs are good options for customers.
And I would totally agree with you, Michael. That was the only reason that I could think of as well.
Awesome.
Okay, question from Dylan. He may have missed a little bit about the first part. His question is, can you enroll in the PG&E program and the Sonoma Clean Power Grid Savvy program? Great question.
Gotcha.
Can you enroll in both programs?
Nah, you got to choose. Sonoma's pretty sensitive about that. PG&E is too. They don't want the batteries to be sent, to potentially conflicting commands. And everybody wants to be able to book the amount of kind of load reduction for a portfolio of batteries, the maximum amount that they can. So they want, maximum amount of a battery that's enrolled in their program to be available to that program. So unfortunately, the customer will have to choose one or the other. In the Enphase app, we will have instruct the customer to make a choice. If they happen to be in Sonoma Clean Power territory, they will have to choose either SCP or PG&E as their quote unquote utility. And depending on who they select, that will route them toward each partner's program enrollment workflow. So if you choose Sonoma Clean Power as your utility, you'll be routed to the Grid Savvy Rewards program enrollment. If you choose PG&E, you'll be routed to ELRP program enrollment. And we have like a little bit of an info context menu that shows up with that same information, just letting customers know they have to choose.
All right, thanks, Michael. Another question came in from Dylan. So from looking at the numbers, the Sonoma Clean Power program looks a bit better financially for homeowners. Am I correct in that? Yeah, we didn't really have a slide where we kind of put all the programs side by side, but yes, exactly what Michael is saying. So if customers that technically would have a choice between those two programs, they'll benefit more by enrolling in the Sonoma Clean Power program than they would in the PG&E ELRP program.
Yep.
All right, well, those are all of the questions that I see. There was a question about training. Nestor, Manuchir, I will get back to you with information on training in Toronto. I don't know if we do have training actually in Toronto. I suspect that we do not offer directly, but we might have something nearby. We do have a training van that does travel around the country as well. So I'll get back to you with some more information on that. And those are all the questions that have come in, Michael. So thank you very much for a really informative session. Again, we encourage you guys to begin discussing these opportunities with your customers. Obviously, they're not all live programs today, but you are doing the right thing by attending a webinar like this and learning about these programs that are coming up so that you can be first in line. You can be fully prepared to sign up your customers right away, especially for those programs that do have a relatively limited budget that might be eaten up very quickly. So be first in line, be prepared, and let us know if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. And thanks everybody for showing up today. Really appreciate the chance to have the conversation with you and look forward to working with you to deliver additional value to your customers. Thank you very much.